Hey FPL managers, it's Josh here from FPL Hawley. I've 17 seasons playing FPL. I've a top 2k all-time rank, and I've spent hours mapping every midweek fixture, every cup round, every confirmed and potential blank and double game week for the second half of the season so that you don't have to. Most FPL managers waste their chips by playing them too early. They have one bad game week and pull the trigger. Then a better opportunity comes up 2 weeks later and they're stuck watching their rank slide with no chips left. This video isn't about giving you 4 game weeks to play your chips. This is about teaching you the framework for making these decisions yourself. Because your team situation is different from mine and chip strategy has to adapt to what you're working with. So let me break it down for you. So we have 19 game weeks in the second half of the season. Now watch what happens when I layer in all the midweek football. So between now and the end of the season, we have Champions League and Europa League match days 7 and 8. Then for the Champions League, Europa League and the Europa Conference League, we have two-legged playoffs for some teams, a round of 16 first and second legs. Then we have two-legged quarterfinals, two-legged semi-finals, and then the Europa League final between game weeks 37 and 38. So that's all the European fixtures happening between all the game weeks. Now for the FA Cup. So then there is the FA Cup third round, fourth round, and fifth round, the FA Cup quarterfinals, semi-finals, and final. Now the FA Cup semis create a blank game week in 34, and the FA Cup final a very high probability blank in game weeks 37. Now let me add in the Carabao Cup. So the Carabao Cup has the semi-final second legs that still need to be played between 24 and 25. And then the final of the Carabao Cup creates a confirmed blank game week in game week 31. So this is why chip timing matters. And look at the density of midweek football. Squad depth becomes absolutely critical and chip management becomes crucial at this point. The further the season progresses, FPL teams still in multiple cup competitions will be managing minutes carefully. And the more information you have about who's progressing in which competitions, the better your chip decisions become. And this is why patience pays off. Every week that passes gives you more certainty about which teams will blank and which will double and when. So let's talk about what we actually know right now versus what we're still waiting to find out. So here's what we know for certain right now. Game weeks 31 is a confirmed blank game week, and that's the Carabao Cup final. Based on the semi-final first leg results, if say Manchester City and Arsenal, who are in the driving seat from the first leg of the semis, reach the Carabao Cup final, their two fixtures of Man City versus Crystal Palace and Arsenal away at Wolves will need to be rescheduled. Game week 33 is then a confirmed double game week, and this will likely be the biggest double game week of the season. And game week 34 is a confirmed blank game week, and that's the FA Cup semi-finals. So these 3 game weeks are your anchors. You can build your chip strategy around these with confidence. Now I'm going to highlight the potential double and blank game week. And here's what we're still waiting on. Game weeks 27, 29, and 36 are all potential double game weeks. And game week 37 is the FA Cup final and is that very high potential blank game week. So whether these actually become doubles or blanks depends entirely on cup progression. So which team's going to go deep in the FA Cup, which teams are still in Europe. We won't have more clarity on this for several weeks. So this is the key distinction. Build your strategy around the confirmed opportunities and stay flexible on the potential ones. Right, now let's go through each chip and not just when to play them, but the framework for deciding when it makes sense to play them. So your wildcard isn't about a specific game week. It's about team state plus future opportunity. So for me, a game week 32 wildcard has a lot going for it. So first off, I can dead end my team into the blank game week 31. I can just use my transfers to navigate that Carabao Cup final blank with players who are definitely playing, and then wildcard out of that dead end in game week 32. So for example, if Arsenal and City do get into the Carabao Cup final and blank in game week 31, I can sell some of those players to field as close to a full playing 11 as makes sense, and then get Arsenal or City players back in game week 32 on my wildcard if I need to. The timing of a Game Week 32 wildcard also maximizes the wildcard's impact. I get 6 to 7 game weeks out of that wildcard team from Game Week 32 through to 38, which will hopefully drive my rank down to end the season on a high. But here's the real strategic benefit. Wildcarding in 32 sets me up perfectly for the bench boost in Game Week 33, which could be the biggest double game week of the season. So I could build my entire 15-player squad on the wildcard specifically to maximize that double game week. Then I'm going to look to use my free hit to navigate the blanks in 34, which means I don't need to factor them in to my wildcard. So for me, 32 is a good week to wildcard, but for you, it might be different based on your squad and your situation. Now for the bench boost has one simple test. Can you field 15 players you'd actually want starting in your main team? If the answer is no, then don't play your bench boost. And this is why the bench boost almost always follows very closely to a wildcard. You've just built an optimal 15-player squad in your wildcard. Everyone on your bench is actually good and hopefully playing. And ideally, everyone's got a double game week or a decent single fixture. So this is when a bench boost delivers maximum value. The alternative scenario is if you wildcard earlier or later, your bench boost could shift with it, but ultimately your framework is to go back to my previous question. Would I be happy to play all 15 players this week? And if yes, this could be in a regular game week with no doubles, then just play your bench boost. So free hits are usually used as a defensive chip designed to cover you during big blank game weeks so you don't need to rip your team up. The framework here is simple. Can you navigate the blank game week naturally with transfers, or does it cost too many transfers to be worth it? So let's use Game Week 34 as an example. That's the FA Cup semi-finals, and this is a confirmed blank. Probably 4 to 6 teams will blank this game week, depending on who makes the semis. So if you've wildcarded in 32, you probably haven't specifically built for this blank. You built for the double in 33. So navigating 34 naturally might require 3 to 4 transfers, and that's really expensive. And that's when a free hit would make sense. The alternative is Game Week 37 if the FA Cup final creates a blank. But here's the difference. If you wildcard in 32, you've got 5 game weeks to roll transfers heading into 37. And you might have 3 or 4 free transfers by then, which would make navigating a blank game week much easier. My working plan right now is to free hit in 34. It's likely the bigger blank game week, and it means I don't need to compromise my wildcard team to account for this. A lot of managers who play aggressively in FPL specifically save their free hit chip for a big double game week and try to get out 11 really strong doubling players. I've seen some huge scores come from this strategy, and if that's the way you like to play FPL, then maybe you could consider playing your free hit in a big double game week. And then finally, the triple captain. So this is probably the least strategic chip, but what the triple captain needs is convergence. You want a premium player in great form with a brilliant fixture with confirmed minutes, ideally in a double game week. So this is the most fluid chip because it depends entirely on form at the time. So here's my current working plan. Triple captain in game week 29 or 36, which are both potential double game weeks. So in 29, Man City play Nottingham Forest at home, and in 36, Man City play Brentford at home. So if either of those weeks become a confirmed double and City's second fixture is decent in any of those fixtures, I'm going to stick the triple captain on Haaland. He's the most explosive player in FPL and he can haul when he wants to. But here is the caveat. This assumes that Haaland's in form when we get there. And it also assumes that City do get these doubles. It also assumes that Pep isn't rotating Haaland heavily by then because they might be prioritizing other competitions. Or Haaland could be injured, you just never know. So the framework here is patience. Don't use a triple captain in hope. Wait for confirmed information. You want the form plus the fixtures plus the minutes. And if they don't align on Haaland, then maybe it's Saka if Arsenal get a great double, for example. So keep your options open. Triple captain is the chip you need to plan for the least. So the frameworks I've given you here are meant to be anchors and they're meant to point you and steer you in the right direction. But be ready to adapt when circumstances change. Don't be wed to an idea if it's at the detriment to your team, because things can change and very quickly. Information beats intuition. Remember, this is what I know right now in the middle of January. And every week that passes, you will know more than me. So use that information wisely when planning your chip strategy. So there we have it. 4 chips, 4 frameworks. Not dates to copy, but frameworks to follow. Wildcard, when team state meets opportunity. Bench boost, when you have 15 players you trust. Free hit, when navigation costs too many transfers. And triple captain, when form, fixture, and minutes all converge for a single player. So here's what to track over the coming weeks. Cup progression, which teams are advancing in the cups and which teams are getting knocked out. Confirmed double and blank game weeks. We'll get official announcements as fixtures get rescheduled. player form, who's hot when those chips need to be played. I'll revisit this strategy in about 4 weeks' time with updated information as more becomes clear. If you want frameworks instead of panic, subscribe to FPL Hawley. I make videos like this every single week. What's your chip strategy? Drop your game weeks in the comments below. When are you going to play your wildcard, bench boost, free hit, and triple captain? Let's compare thinking. And best of luck with the rest of the season.